Hey, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about SATANCON, and that took place in Boston, Massachusetts. And I wanted to also address how Christians should view this whole thing that take place, right? Should we be offended? Should we be upset? We don't know. But hey, let's get into it real quick. All right, I'm going to make this big. So here we go. I want y'all to see this video real quick. Shout outs to my boy who sent it to me, Jen. Well, what's up, baby?
Let them continue without fierce opposition, and we stand here today in defiance of their siege and destroy their symbols of oppression.
No, that's the Bible.
We must build a community outside of the virtual. Rebellion comes in many forms, to each and their own, within their own capabilities and their own situation. For some of us, merely existing one more day is victory. But for those of us who can, we must stand up for those who cannot.
That's nuts. This dude turning up keyboards.
So what we were doing is trying to destroy the symbols of the things that are cause harm, that oppress us. Whether that is people's theocratic views, trying to instill theocratic rule in a supposed secular society. Whether that is the Supreme Court utilizing their powers to decimate our rights, give power to those who are further taking our rights away from us. The symbol of the flag was meant to represent the communities that the people in authoritative positions that use that to cause harm to those who need the most protection.
So, I want to show you that real quick. Now, okay, my views on that. These are just people who believe that they are just representing a symbol of rebellion and freedom. That's what they think. All right. And I'm going to be honest with you. I really wasn't too upset with them tearing up the Bible. I know that's going to sound crazy. Now, I'm not saying this is how you should think. I'm just saying for me personally. I wasn't too much upset about it because they represent Satan. Satan would do it himself. It ain't nothing new to me. I know Lucifer would do that himself if he could in the flesh. I know Lucifer would spit on it and burn it if he could. Which he could. But you know what I mean? So I'm really not surprised that that took place. I wasn't all that. I wasn't like, how dare you? How dare you? I wasn't that, bruh. I was just like, oh, that's how you feel, right? But let's go into this thing. I wanted to share this because I wanted to bring a little bit more in mind and perspective of how we as Christians should be able to view and how we should even view Lucifer, right? You're like, what? And also people who are following him, right? Like truly, yeah, hell, Satan, like those types of people, hell, Satan type of people, all right? And this is coming from a philosophy perspective, a Stoic. It's a writer named as John Milton. It's called Paradise Lost, right? He describes this very thing where how Lucifer is the representation of quote unquote freedom and rebellion, just like how the Luciferians believe. Like these people that you just saw believe that Lucifer is the great power of freedom, the great power of freedom and liberation, right? That's what they believe, right? But I want us to look at this real quick. This actual person who analyzed this text, right, from John Milton. Let's look.
The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. These are the famous words of defiant triumph spoken by Satan in John Milton's Paradise Lost. Having been imprisoned in hell, Satan declares that God really has no power over him, because Satan can adapt to any circumstance that God throws at him. His outer circumstances cannot define him or make him miserable. If Satan wants to turn hell into heaven, he can, simply with the power of his own mind. And
now, real quick, he puts him, he creates, now, the writer describes Lucifer as a person who says, hey, I can create hell into my own heaven. I can make this my own kingdom, right? Even though this place is a place of torture and total separation from God. I don't feel God's presence. I don't see God, but I'm going to make this my paradise, right? This is the place that I want to be, right? He's writing him in this type of way, right?
And thus, God is thwarted.
Thwarted, meaning in the past, meaning he's irrelevant. Because I am my own God now, right? Then this is how the writer wrote Lucifer, Satan, right? Even though technically Satan he thought like that, and that's why he got casted out. But I love how he wrote this.
This is a profound statement about the flexibility of the mind and our capacity to interpret our circumstances in different ways, especially through the lenses of different values. Is it better to serve in heaven, or is it better to reign in hell? Well, it depends on your values.
Exactly, right? And that's that concept. Is it better to live in heaven or to reign in hell? Meaning in heaven, you're serving, but in hell, you're your own king, right? But again, it depends on your values, but also it talks about your perspective of life. That's how when you can have two people who went through the same thing, I mean, literally the same trauma, but they come out two different people because of each person, their perspective of a certain situation. All right.
Different values lead to different ways of seeing things, and arguably, different paths to happiness. We've already seen so many theories of happiness, from Plato to the Stoics, from the Transcendentalists to Aristotle. And we haven't even mentioned ancient Eastern views of happiness, or modern theories of happiness, like hedonism theory, desire theory, objectivist theory, life satisfaction theory, emotional state theory, and the list goes on and on.
And this is the thing. This whole writing is a philosophy of happiness. How does one obtain happiness, true happiness, right? And he uses the person of Lucifer because Lucifer wanted what he wanted. He wanted to be God himself, right? Now that he got cast out of heaven, he can be his own God, right? Right? But the writer is going to show you a caveat, right? So what is true happiness and how does one obtain it, right? It's all in your perception.
Such a preponderance of viewpoints seems to suggest that, to at least some degree, happiness is subjective. It seems the human mind is able to nimbly twist itself into any shape in order to reconcile itself to any circumstance, to find happiness in anything, or to find misery in anything. We can be surrounded by great things but make ourselves miserable. Conversely, we can be mired in misery and make it heaven. We always find ways to paint ourselves in the best or worst light. No matter how pathetic we might be, we make ourselves the heroes of our own stories. No matter how blessed we might be, we make ourselves tragic victims.
Think about that, right? Because of the adaptability our adaptability that God has given us, but because of sin, it can be perverted, right? So what is it saying here, right? So what is this guy saying? He's saying because of that adaptability, sometimes we become delusional, right? And that's the term that he's going to use here in a little bit, right? We can literally be not a good person, but we make ourselves the hero. Then also we can be blessed with so many different things, a good wife, a good child, but because of the situation, maybe she said no to you one time. Then next thing you know, you play the victim. All of a sudden, she's a bad wife. To you now, she's not a good wife to you just because she said no for that day, right? Or, just like the liberals, man, you can have a liberal who lives in a great country and try to twist its laws so that they can feel like they're in a good country. But you can have the same person who dealt with the same situations and still believe that they're in a great nation, right? I'm not saying which one is right. I'm just telling you how it is, right? That's what they're talking about here, right? Sometimes we as human beings are not good creatures, but we always tend to make ourselves the heroes, right? The same when it comes to how it was in slavery, right? The slave owners would literally paint history as if they created these things to make themselves the heroes, even though they know that they did genocide, to the Native Americans here, right? But they're going to paint themselves as the heroes. It's delusional, right? But also we're able to make good out of bad situations, and we're able to make good situations bad, right? So let's go.
We can take any heaven and make it into a hell, or we can take any hell and make it into a heaven. While this might sound optimistic at first, this is not necessarily a good thing. In fact, for John Milton, this adaptability, even when it's positive, demonstrates the absurdity of conscious being, whether angelic, satanic, or human.
Meaning you're not able to deal with the realities around you. You lack accountability, and then also you actually do away with objective truth. Because now you're only guided by what you want things to be, not what they are, and not what they are. So that is not really a good thing when it comes to this type of perspective, right? Let's keep it going. I'm going somewhere with it, y'all. Just follow me.
It's about our capacity for self-delusion. For Milton, Satan, the embodiment of evil, is fundamentally the embodiment of self-delusion. Readers of Paradise Lost are always surprised by how heroically Milton portrays Satan, the ultimate bad guy. Satan is rebellious and defiant. He is an individualist. He believes in his own brand of freedom. He is a warrior and a leader, ambitious, clever, and resourceful.
Who does this sound like? Who does this sound like? The Satanist. Satanists believe everything about him. Like, this is the light that they paint Satan. Oh, he's a leader. He's ambitious. He's clever. He's resourceful. He's his own brand of freedom, right? That's how they see him. And that's how Lucifer paints himself to be, right? Delusional. Because he's not actually taking what actually is. His pride made him delusional. And this is what's happening with Satanists. Their pride of not willing to conform to certain normalities. Their pride causes them to be delusional. Lucifer, Satan, is delusional. His pride made him delusional, thinking he can be just like his creator. Come on, man.
And we like that about him. Satan seems to be the quintessential hero. Of course, the fact that we admire Satan may only indicate that we ourselves are more satanic than we think. Milton's Christianity taught that evil is not only repulsive, but also attractive. So it's no wonder that Satan, as the embodiment of evil, should hold some attraction for us. However, careful readers will notice that Milton does not portray Satan as entirely heroic. In fact, he often portrays Satan as quite pathetic. Satan becomes a perverted peeping Tom voyeur who watches Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. He becomes a groveling trespasser who is taken by the scruff of the neck and tossed out of paradise. He's a little punk who talks big and rouses heaven to rebel against God.
And John Milton actually says, hey, even though he's thinking this and he's doing certain things, in reality, he's a punk. In reality, he's pathetic. He's groveling over the ground after he got casted out of heaven, right? He's crawling all over the floor, right? He's crawling all over the floor because he's pathetic. But in his mind, he thought at the time that he was a king. He thought that he was God himself. He thought he could be a god, right? But in reality, he's delusional, right? He's having to hide and peep and look at Adam and Eve, right? He's having to sneak around. If you think about in the scriptures, Satan came as a snake, slithering or walk. Well, no, he didn't slither because they weren't on their stomachs at the time, right? But still, he came in a very divisive way, sneak way, right? But let's go in here.
But in his first battle, is knocked down with a single blow from the Archangel Michael and has to be carried off the battlefield by others to safety. Milton writes the character of Satan in such a way that whenever Satan is by himself, alone with his own thoughts, or with his sniveling cronies, he seems heroic. But the moment he is in the presence of others, especially in the presence of true goodness, he is completely pathetic. Satan's heroism is not a real heroism, but a delusion, and a delusion which cannot last. The vital moment of self-awareness comes when Satan, having escaped hell and braved the abyss of chaos, finally arrives in our world, in the Garden of Eden, where joy forever dwells. And we would expect this moment to be triumphant. We would expect Satan to be pleased with himself at least. After all, he is in paradise, where we would expect he would find happiness. But that's not what happens. Satan is surprised to find that, upon arriving in paradise, he is still miserable, maybe even more miserable than ever before.
Ever before. So what is this saying? He's saying first, when he comes in contact with true goodness, he's miserable again because he doesn't have a real authentic form of heroism. It's a counterfeit, right? That's how the writer wrote it. But guess what? In the real world, that's exactly what it is today, right? Right? And then when paradise comes, it says that, yes, he finally made it out of hell and he's on the earth in our realm. He thought that he would be good, but he's even more miserable. And then later, I want you to finish watching this because it says, hey, in the text of, A Paradise Lost, it says, hey, when he's left alone with his thoughts, right? It's like a living hell, right? Because and then he understands that, bruh, I have more suffering to do, right? But when he's by himself and he's not around other legit heroes, he pretends that he is this hero. He made himself this hero. But when he's left to his own thoughts, and he's actually suffering, because the real paradise of the garden reminds him of what was. And he realized he came to full self-awareness, right? He came full to self-awareness that, bruh, I made a bad decision. This was the worst decision I could have ever made, right? But this is what happens, and this is what's going to happen in real life. At the end of it all, Lucifer is going to have to bow. He's going to have to bow to King Jesus. You know that's right. He going to have to bow. And he knows this already. But the problem is, my view on this is, we need to outreach to these Satanists. We need to show them that they're living in a delusion that Lucifer believed himself. And that's what I think about it. They believe that Lucifer is a sign of freedom, but actually they are a slave, right? And Lucifer is suffering because he once knew what it's like to be in the presence of our living God, in the true God. So are we living in a delusion? Are there any things in our life that we allowed ourselves to tell ourselves that it's just the world dealing it out, but in reality we caused it ourselves? Is there something in our lives that we've done that caused that negative repercussion, but we made ourselves a victim? But in reality, we just need to have accountability. But I'll leave that up to you to decide. But hey, like, subscribe, share. But hey, until next time, grace and peace.